20-year-old Clark Kent, fresh from Smallville Junior College, sits on a train to Metropolis, reflecting his upcoming life decisions. Clark arrives in Metropolis, carrying his luggage. He looks thoughtful as he stands among the buildings and flying doves. Arriving at the Metropolis Hotel, he checks in and talks to an employee about staying for a long time. They discuss Clark's uncertain plans. The employee gives him advice on life decisions and local safety. Then Clark goes to his room. Clark walks down an empty city street at night, aware it can be dangerous. He enters a diner where people are chatting. Then he goes outside when someone calls out to him. He faces a robber who demands his belongings. Staying calm, Clark warns the robber to back off. The robber ignores him, thinking it's a trick. Clark then uses his heat vision to stop the robber. During a football selection session, the coach repeatedly calls out Clark, surprising other players who inquire about him due to conflicting reports. Initially skeptical, the coach agrees to let Clark prove himself, after he confidently steps forward and presents the document signed by players. The coach tests Clark as a quarterback by letting defensive tackles pressure him. Clark confidently accepts. When the play starts, chaos unfolds as Clark's strength and speed disrupt the field, knocking players around. The assistant coach is impressed by Clark's skills and asks the head coach if he saw it, who confirms he did. The coach tells the assistant to get a contract from the front office within 30 minutes, even though there's still another day of trials. The assistant agrees and prepares the contract quickly. Meanwhile, Clark helps another player up, showing both his strength and sportsmanship. The coach then calls Clark over to discuss his impressive performance against the stadium backdrop. Clark then applies for a position at a high-tech company. The executive initially mentions they don't hire temporary staff, but Clark clarifies his interest. The executive explains their process of hiring top PhD graduates, who spend time in labs before moving to applied R&D. He discusses their current priority project on generating electricity from salt water, revealing they've been stuck on the final equations for 3 years. Clark swiftly writes down calculations and insists they pass them to the researchers. The executive agrees, and Clark assures him he'll be satisfied once they review his work. Clark presents his equations on a screen. Researchers initially puzzled, then excited as they review his work. The executive returns, urging him to stay and asking about his job search, showing the company's strong interest in his abilities. Later, Clark talks to his mother, Martha, who offers him lifelong support, but emphasizes he should follow his dreams and not worry about her. She advises him to consider his happiness and assures him of her unconditional support. They conclude their conversation by displaying their close bond. At the Daily Planet, Perry White searches for Clark Kent's resume in his messy office. Debbie locates it on Perry's desk. Perry reads Clark's resume, acknowledging his experience at the Smallville Daily Express. Clark explains how the paper changed from daily to weekly. Perry corrects Clark on using active sentences instead of passive ones. Lois asks if reporters should give opinions in stories. Perry says opinions belong in editorials, not news, and calls Jimmy, who acknowledges him. Perry criticizes Jimmy for not uploading accident photos. Jimmy says the server couldn't handle the large files. Perry complains about high-resolution photos, and Jimmy defends the need for detail. He questions Jimmy's risky actions. Jimmy says getting the right shot is important. He accuses him of risking his life, but Jimmy insists it's about giving readers what they want. He tells Jimmy to check the photo upload, asks Lois to meet in his office, and takes Clark with him. He talks to Clark about the Daily Planet having many young reporters and few middle-aged ones. He acknowledges other newspapers are performing better, with decreasing ad revenue and few readers at the Daily Planet. Perry observes on the high turnover of young reporters and mentions a low-paying position for Clark. He criticizes Clark's writing for lacking emotional depth and holding back. Perry directs his assistant Debbie to get Clark a job application at the Daily Planet. Debbie informs Perry the application is on his chair, and Perry finds it. Clark and Perry shake hands, with Perry wishing Clark success and suggesting they may meet again, and Clark politely acknowledges the meeting. Clark stands outside, holding the Daily Planet job application, deep in thought about Perry's words and the challenges ahead. He drops the application, showing a moment of doubt. Clark's determined as he looks up, displaying his superhuman ability by flying above the city. As Clark flies into space seeking solitude, he reflects on fundamental questions about his origin, purpose, and identity.